No, I am not okay, and this is not okay. This is a post-election reflection. Yesterday, we had a conversation about not being okay and talking about post-election grief. So we had a lot of people joining in yesterday. We had a very lively discussion. So we thought it would be good idea to have a part two to discuss some other things. So reflections, but also steps forward. Because as we talked about yesterday, we were in some kind of state when we found out the news about the election. And now it's the what's next. So we want to be able to honor that we were impacted, but we also want to hold space for what's next. So I want to say to people as you come into this space that this is a community healing space for Black women. Other people can join, but I want to be clear, this is for Black women. So if you are coming into this space and you have judgmental comments towards other Black women, you will be blocked or removed. And I am going to read some comments that really speak to when we as Black women try to open up and share how we're feeling, sometimes other people feel like they have the right to comment or judge us or criticize us in some way. So we're going to address those comments today. So we're going to be talking about, again, holding space, but also what are the next steps. So I want to say thank you to everyone who's joined in. I've been hearing from Black women and just watching, hearing different things about the impact. And we wanted to talk about it because many Black women feel like we have given so much to so many people and we're often betrayed or not supported. I also reposted a really good video on Instagram from the mayor of Baltimore, which was excellent. And he was saying, just like I've said also, the main issues that we're seeing here with the election and Vice President Kamala Harris and questioning her competence and all these other things that they were questioning deals with racism and sexism. And nobody really wants to talk about it, but we're going to talk about it here. The other thing we're going to talk about and make reference to, as we did yesterday, is many of us are deeply impacted by this because the treatment that we've seen of Vice President Kamala Harris throughout this whole election process and up into, election day was this kind of way to discredit her. So it doesn't matter how many qualifications, degrees, anything you have. Many of us can relate to the same thing, that we have been told to work twice as hard to get half as much. We've gotten all these things. We really have dreams of excelling and doing other things. And the grief often comes in is when we come into these work environments and we're treated in a way that is very harmful. And it's a way to really undermine us and not really appreciate what we bring to the table. So they want to exploit our labor, but they don't want to elevate us and respect us. So if you don't know me already, I'm Dr. Kamani. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, a toxic job survivor, but more importantly, I'm a toxic job liberator for Black women. Again, I want to say thank you, everyone, for coming into this community healing space. And I also want to let you know that if at any point in this conversation you feel uncomfortable or things come up for you, please pay attention to your body and make sure that you are breathing throughout this, because yes, we've been knocked down, but we will rise up, as we always do as Black women. So we will rise up. So I'm going to turn it over to my Spelman sister, Dr. Monica Cox, for her to introduce herself.
Hi, it's good to be with you tonight. So yes, I am Dr. Monica Cox, and I am a professor. I would say I'm a truth teller. I'm a disruptor. I'm a lot of things, depending on whatever day it is. And today, I do feel that I am going to take on this truth telling role.
Mm-hmm.
You can see who I am. I always have this issue. It's like, what do I want to say? I just want us to get going, and more will probably come out throughout the conversation. So it's just good to see you again.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Monica. So I wanted to start off with talking about protecting our peace and what that looks like. So protecting our peace can look like allowing us space to grieve about what's happened to us and what happened with the election and how that may have impacted us on different levels. And the reason I really wanted to do this, and let me just tell you a little backstory. I get motivated very easily. So I saw some comments come in on my YouTube channel and I was like, what? Right? I had like, what reaction? And I said, you know what? I want to talk about this on a discussion because I want us to identify lessons learned. So as we go forward, what are some of the things that keep us divided as a community and really prevent us from doing certain things from other people within our community? We're often expecting people who are not in our community to do things that discredit us or don't value our humanity. But when we do that to each other, that's a problem. And so I wanted to hold space for that because there were some comments that came in through my YouTube channel, and the people appear to be Black women. So I wanted to speak to these things so we can talk about it. Okay. So one of the comments was, let's see. Wait, I can't find it now. But anyway, some of the comments came in and they were talking about like kind of questioning why would anybody vote for her, which was very concerning. That somebody would say that, but they were basically questioning her competence. But I saw this. This is one comment. We don't trust each other to move forward as a community. My heart broke a little yesterday for this country. So again, I think that it's important for us now that we're at this juncture and this has happened. This is a wake up call for us as the Black community that we need to come together. This person in this comment is questioning if we can ever come together because we often distrust one another. And the distrust comes from our enslavement. For those of us who are descendants of those enslaved in America and even colonization, they taught us, and what they did to break our spirit was to divide and conquer. And we still engage in this behavior right now. And the ways that it might be engaged now is people making fun of you or saying negative things about you grieving about what happened, like kind of move on, but that's not really valuing us. Okay. So let me see. Some other comments were a lot of thank yous. And I'd say thank you to those of you who said thank you. And I don't want these comments or my reading these comments to discount that I do appreciate all these positive comments. So the vast majority of comments were positive. I even saw people talking about, I've decided not to vote anymore. They betrayed us. I'm done. I've seen a lot of that, including on my videos and other spaces. And I've also heard from Black men who are saying that. Okay, so here's a comment. As much as I support the Exodus movement, it's not economically, socially, or politically feasible for most people to leave. There are over 47 million of us here. The more we start leaving and concentrating in other countries, that is more that's going to create the problem for us because the anti-Blackness is global. Look at the countries where refugees have gone. The far is growing. I guess the far right is growing out there, right? And so again, this is when I'm talking about possible options that we have. I think it's important for us to talk about all the options, but sometimes we get into this fear response and we like immediately discredit what possible options have been. But other Black women have actually pursued these options and they're doing well. So some of the response to her comment was, I left and I'm doing absolutely fantastic. My happiness has increased 3,000%. There are plenty of places around the world to live. You are just too afraid to leave. That is the main problem, not the far right. So another person said, so are you going to stay in America and suffer when you could leave and live a great life? What kind of logic is that? Okay. So there's a lot of back and forth conversation about what our options might be. But again, as Black women, I want us to respect, we all have our own opinions about things and we have the right to make our own decisions. But what's important for us to understand that we shouldn't just automatically no, that's not a good idea. Why would you do that? Okay. Here was another comment that came in. And this comment was more so almost, it sounded judgmental to me. Okay. I can't understand why you all thought that Kamala was going to beat Trump when Hillary Clinton lost to him back in 2016. I can't understand why you feel Kamala would make things better for Black America. Okay. Now, again, the conversation yesterday was talking about our grief process and holding a space for us to talk about our grief. When people come in and make comments like that, that does not honor that we're talking about our grief process. Those comments really don't honor our humanity. So it's like this kind of critical thing that as Black women, are we not allowed to feel hurt, or are we not allowed to express that? It's kind of like, what are you doing? Okay. This is another one. I voted for Trump as a Black woman. We would have more of a target on our backs if Kamala would have won. And then the person responded, said, "You're part of the problem. What plan did Trump have? Please tell me." So there's a lot of disagreement here. And so again, my hope is that by reading these comments and having this conversation, that we are able to understand we can have differences of opinion, but when we start criticizing one another about our experiences, then that is not healthy. Okay. Here's the comment with the person who said about she voted for Trump. She said it would have been more hostile for Black women if she would have won. Lots of Black women would lose their jobs and be socially attacked worse. I am so glad she didn't win for safety reasons. So then someone responded back to that. And I would love, as I'm reading these comments, I would love to hear the audience, your thoughts about some of these comments. So then someone responded to her. Our ancestors will be ashamed. Hoping to lose to avoid negative backlash is diabolical, right? You make a good point. It was delusional. The betrayal still hurts. Yeah. So what do you, I see your head. I see your head shaking. What do you think about some of these comments, Dr. Monica?
You know what? I want to talk about that last one, particularly like the fear of success, the fear of change, the fear of moving beyond the status quo, and how it's sometimes just better to be quiet and hold your head down. I think that is a response when we talk about white supremacy, when we're talking about patriarchal thinking, when we're talking about just the brainwashing that has happened to us. That's, we can't be afraid. You know, no matter what was going to happen, our lives were probably going to change. And it's true, it could have been better for some people, it could have been worse, but this is what it means to be Black in America.
Yeah. And to vote for someone that we know is not for us because you're concerned that Black women are going to have a target on us back. We already have targets on our back. We already do. So I don't know that logic that if you vote for this person, then that means that we're safer, that we are less likely to have a target on our back. No. And I see, yes, comment, internalized racism. Yes, exactly. Another comment, we cannot move forward because of fear. Our ancestors died for their future generations. Cowards, okay? Our feelings are never validated. I thought it was just me. At least I now know I'm not alone. Thank you, Dr. Kamani, for starting your platform to raise awareness and provide a safe space for us. Yes, absolutely. America has about 25% of Black Americans brainwashed. Black women are going to lose their jobs with or without him. Right. So how do we get to the point, Dr. Monica, of protecting our peace? So even in this space where I'm trying to create a space for us to be able to talk about and process, and I hope that I am modeling for other Black women, what is it like for each other to hold space? So Dr. Monica and I are holding space for one another, and I'm holding space for everyone here. But what is it that some Black women find it difficult to hold space for each other? Because we can't come together as a community if we don't hold space for each other.
Yeah, you know what? I think so often we're looking for blueprints. You know, a lot of people like that that stencil, you know, the path that's already been paved. But historically, Black women are pioneers. We are the ones who have to create the blueprint. And I think so often, there is that fear because we are punished a lot for doing things. We're punished for breathing. We're punished for whatever. And I think that we've been talking about fear, thus far tonight.
Mhm.
But what's keeping us back is that we're often afraid to be our own blueprints.
Yeah.
And I think last night I was saying this is an opportunity to reinvent. This is
Mhm.
an opportunity to recreate and to create new systems. And we
Mhm.
have to figure out what systems work for us. As you were talking earlier, some people may leave, some people may stay, but guess what? That's your blueprint, that's your
Right.
system. And you have to have not even permission. I will say give yourself permission to have a
Yeah.
blueprint. Because when have we ever had that kind of freedom?
Yeah.
That was not
Yeah.
what our
And
ancestors had. And so we have to push past that to actually say, you know what? I may not have someone before me who had
yeah.
that,
Yeah.
but I have to step out in faith because this is the
Yeah.
next level of
Yeah.
my development, my evolution, my freedom, my
Yeah.
liberation. It is
Yeah.
pushing.
Exactly. And who am I to question something that you need for your own liberation? Who
Mm.
am I to do that? And I don't know why some Black people and other Black women might engage in that behavior. And what about the part, and I'm curious to hear from the audience as well, and from you, Dr. Monica.
Mhm.
I'm hearing a lot of people saying that they're not going to vote anymore. Or
Yeah.
they're saying that if she's not going to run again, I'm not going to vote anymore. I've heard a lot of that. So, audience, I would love to hear your thoughts about that. And I would love to hear your thoughts about it too, Dr. Monica.
Yes. You know what? That's grief talking for many people. That's
Hmm.
emotion talking. Like we're still in that phase of you talked about it last night. Like sometimes some of it's denial, some of it is anger. And, we say a lot of things because that's
Hmm.
where we are. But
Hmm.
I don't want to disregard that. I'm just saying many people are just still processing it. I think, it's part of the healing.
Hmm.
With every grief and with every loss, there's healing that's needed. And we have
Yeah.
not yet begun to heal because we're about to have to get into the throes of whatever this is.
Right.
And
Get
this is
ready.
not just a 1 month thing. This is a 4 year process.
Hmm.
And I think there's a part of me that gives people grace in a way too,
Hmm.
because this has only been like 2 days.
Yeah.
So people are going to say a lot of things. They're doing a
Yeah.
lot of stuff. They're responding in anger and haste.
Hmm.
And I think that's part of our process too, where we have to calm our bodies
Yeah.
so that we can think clearly and make
Yeah.
good choices
Yeah.
and be very wise and strategic. I don't think
Mm.
a lot of people are quite there yet,
No. Right. And
but
the
we
thing
have to get
about
there.
yes, we need to get there. We need to get there, right? So we need to
Yes.
have moments to grieve and process and all that. But then we also need to think about forward movement and don't be telling people we're not going to vote. Like, how is that helpful to our situation at all? It's not at all. And
Especially to the younger generation.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Especially when you
I
think
have a
about
question though.
leadership. Yeah.
There's
Hmm.
something in the comment. Let's stop telling them. Okay, hold it. The travel girl.
Hmm.
We need to set our mindset to cause them to be afraid of our silence. Let's stop talking and start taking action to take rescue ourselves. Let's stop telling
Hmm.
them what we're thinking.
Hmm.
That one was interesting.
It
That's all.
was.
I just wanted to elaborate. If
Yeah.
she,
Can you elaborate? Can you elaborate on that? So I'm not sure if it is that we have to work together internally to build up and not always look for external people to kind of come and save us. I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to, but I would love to hear your comments to elaborate on that. So when we think about that, I think some people have been tripped up on how could you vote for this man? How could you vote for this man? Like, you know what he was bringing to the table. We've been there before. How could you do that? And you sent this really good video about a white man explaining why he did that. And I want to say this. It's less important about why they, but we do need to understand why they. We do need to understand that because I think many of us were working on this logical notion of, where she's bringing this to the table, she's very qualified, she has policy, she has all this stuff.
Mhm.
We're going to see a video. I hope I can play it. We're going to see a video that shows you a lot of these people who voted for him. they were not thinking like we were thinking. So that whole
Yes.
campaign, approach, focused on the logic. A lot of them were thinking something very different, and they coalesced and they got together and they voted to
Yeah.
protect their needs because of their fears, and we
Yeah.
weren't addressing their fears in
And
terms of what.
Dr. Kamani, yeah, I want to say something. I feel like I'm putting my professor hat on a minute, on for a second. I'm like, as you watch this video, I think there are some other things too to elaborate, because I saw this video this morning and I shared it with you. And it was very insightful because we're never in the room to hear what people are saying like this. Like they see our brown skin and they shut down.
Yeah.
But to actually have someone have a conversation, with this white man about his real concern, his heart of like why we can't have Kamala Harris as president, I think
Mm-hmm.
we need to listen to it from a strategic perspective, because there are a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people we work with, a lot of people we see, and they're not going to tell us this, but this is what they're thinking. And I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying to listen to be afraid, but to kind of be like,
That's
this
how
is
they
the
work.
behind the scenes,
Yes.
and how am I now going to get my chess move to
Yes.
move in this direction, knowing that's your
Yes.
problem. That's what
Yes.
you want to me. So
Yes.
I want to set the clip
Yes.
up a little bit when you hear
Yes.
it, because it's shocking also, but not shocking. But to hear
Mm-hmm.
someone say it so blatantly, I know it's
Mm-hmm.
going to shock people who hear it.
No, there were a lot of people who said they were going to vote for her, got in that ballot, and got in that vote, and vote like, I can't do it. I can't do it. So we need to understand as Black people that this is real. This is real. They are really fearing for their destruction. And so they will do whatever they can. So we have to do what we need to do to protect ourselves as well. So part of what we need to do is protect our peace. We need to identify what are the things that keep us divided and address that. So those are some of the comments I read today,
Yeah.
but there are some other issues too. And there's something else that I think that's important for us too. And I think that's what the woman was referring to when she talked about, not telling them all of our business. And I saw her
Mhm.
response to that as well. She said, we need to stop expecting other people to validate our feelings and rescue us. We now understand that will never happen. It's like waiting for an abuser to finally respect you. Yes.
Yes.
And it's almost like when you're in a toxic job and you feel like you're working harder and harder and harder to get that promotion, to get that validation, to get those things, but you're never going to get it. And you're going to keep working, run into a brick
Yeah.
wall and hurt yourself in the interim time. So, what would you say, Dr. Monica? What is this telling us? So now that we peeped, we're in the room now, we're hearing some of this conversation
Mhm.
that many white people might be experiencing, might be thinking, what does that mean for us as Black people?
You know what? I love my Dr. Maya Angelou, who says, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's what's up. We got to believe what we see.
Yeah.
I think so often, I mean, I keep saying this, that we are benefit of the doubt people. And we are the kindest,
Mm-hmm.
most forgiving people collectively.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, we do need to have that that intensity and a little bit of rigidity when it comes to, it's
Yeah.
our boundaries of how much are we going to give other people. And I
Yeah.
heard someone say, when you're looking at businesses, and I think someone said it here,
Mm-hmm.
we need to start supporting our Black owned businesses. We need to
Mm-hmm.
start putting our resources into the spaces that serve us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a mindset. We've been saying this for years. We've always said it, but I'm saying it's time to execute. Someone talked about boycotting. When you do look at athletics, who's
Mm-hmm.
in the NCAA on that football field on Saturdays? Who's in the NFL on Sundays and Mondays? It's us.
Mm-hmm.
Colin Kaepernick told us about it. And we I don't have the athletes on here. I don't have the people, the celebrities on here, but I do feel like they also play a major part in responding to what is happening. and saying you don't get um, to strip our culture. You don't get the benefits of, taking everything and not giving anything back to us. We collectively have to look within our spheres of influence and say, this is how I'm going to cut off the supply
Mm-hmm.
for this thing. This
Mm-hmm.
is how I'm going to shield my people. So it's
Yeah.
about protection. It's about executing differently. It's about shifting and pivoting in ways that are very strategic. But the word protection keeps dropping in my spirit. We
Mm.
have to protect each other because now we're very vulnerable
True.
in so
True.
many ways,
Yes. And I
particularly
think.
fiscally. Fiscally, we are very vulnerable because what are we talking about? Our jobs,
Mm-hmm.
our livelihood. And there are two things that we need to really look at because I think people are going to come for our livelihoods and they're going to come for our lives. And I'm not saying shoot us down. I'm saying they are connected, but we need to really know that this is no game.
Yeah.
And so now how do we protect our lives and how do we protect our livelihoods?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what we need to think about and
I
work
agree.
together on.
I agree. And I see a comment, be wise as serpents, but harmless as doves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. And I see also America flaunted Black people at the Olympics, but when it came to showing us she cared for us, she didn't show up. No, she didn't show up. And I'm thinking about, when we think about, what our ancestors have gone through, and I've talked about this before, we talked about this yesterday, is that
Mhm.
our ancestors have shown us that we will persevere. We absolutely will persevere.
Absolutely. It's in us.
It's in us. And
Absolutely.
there's some lessons learned too. And so I think it's important for us to really kind of connect to the wisdom of our ancestors and things they've said. So I'm thinking about one of our ancestors. So
Yes.
many of you may know Tina McElroy Ansa, who was a very famous author, Spelman alum, and she called a number of Black women her good little schoolgirls, good little schoolgirls. And Dr. Monica and I are very blessed to be some of her good little schoolgirls. And
Yeah.
so she really um, supported us and she spoke her truth, like unapologetically spoke her truth.
Yes.
One of the things that she said, and I want to uplift her voice,
Mm.
one of the things she said that was so powerful was protect your shit. Protect your shit. Okay. So when we think about our ancestor, Tina,
Yes.
when we think about other ancestors, what does that look like for us as Black people and Black women going forward? What do you think we can learn from that statement, Dr. Monica?
Hold on. You know what? Before we go there, I want to say something because I think I mentioned this to you. And I
Okay.
think, we talk about Tina and her spirit, and we're about to go off for a minute, honoring Tina for just a moment.
Yes.
But she was very active on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And on August 30th, that's the last post that I saw of Tina.
Mm.
Tina was at a Kamala Harris rally.
Yes, she was.
And someone took a picture of her right there with Kamala. And I think I told you this, Kamani, the last correspondence I had with her before she passed, I put something on Twitter and I
Mm-hmm.
said, Kamala Harris met a superstar.
Oh, wow.
And that's why I feel this strong connection. Tina did not have a chance to vote.
Mm.
She
Yeah.
passed September 10th
Yeah.
before she was able to vote.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you think about our ancestors, man, they're relying on us.
Yes.
That's what I feel. I feel that, that encouragement, that move on. It's not what we thought it was going to be, but
Mm-hmm.
you better not give up because
Yeah.
the blood that is flowing through our veins and every sacrifice that was made we're building.
Yeah.
It's like a tree. They planted the seeds and it's growing, but we are part of that tree as well. And we must do what we can so that eventually that fruit of that tree will manifest. And I think that it's part of that. I feel like I kind of lost a little bit thinking about about Tina, but
Yeah.
we are I feel like many of us are elders now. We're becoming elders. And
Mm-hmm.
what does it mean to transition into that space? And I
Mm-hmm.
think this is time for us to take up the mantle that our ancestors have given us.
Yeah.
It's just a transition. And the
Yeah.
older you get, the wiser you get. And I feel like this is what it is. It's time for us to pick up that mantle.
Yeah. Right. So as you pick up the mantle, how can we individually and collectively, as Tina said, protect our shit?
Mm-hmm.
How can we do that? Because people are looking at things we're doing and they try to steal a lot of things. So how can we protect our stuff?
Yeah. You know what? I mean, I don't know if this is a rhetorical question too, but I feel like we have to open our mouths.
Hmm.
You don't just allow somebody to walk in your house, take your stuff, and go. Like, what is this? No,
Right.
come on, this doesn't belong to you.
Yes.
And for so long, we've been afraid. We have been so afraid to speak up because we do understand the consequences. That's part of our history as well. Understanding the history of lynchings, of murders, um, of harm, bodily harm, mental harm, death. But at some point, we have to be like our ancestors and say, you know what? In this one life that I'm given, I'm going to see freedom. I'm going to be liberated in whatever form that is. And if I have to sacrifice because I speak up, so be it. But I hope that the person after me doesn't have to pay the price that I did. Like, we got to have a whole different mindset. And I will say, as a Gen Xer, I have been extremely privileged. I've always had reproductive rights. I've always had the right to vote. I have always had everything that my ancestors set the foundation for. And baby, this is just our time. That's why I'm like kind of pumped at the same time. Cause I'm like, hold up. Somebody said, put me in, coach. That's what I thought earlier this week. Put me in, coach. I didn't know, but I've been training for this. And if we truly understood that we've been training our entire lives, I'm almost 50. I've been training almost 50 years. And I'm like, you know what? In this lifetime, put me in, coach. I got to say what I got to say and do what I have to do. It's
Mm-hmm.
just part of being in the Army, being
Mm-hmm.
in this space. It is what it means to be Black in America. You have to go in and play the game. You got to go to the bat. You got to run those bases. You
Uh-huh.
got to hit it. Let's go.
Okay.
We
So
on
what
the
is it,
team.
what does that look like in terms of playing the game,
Yeah.
hitting the what does that mean for us as Black people individually and collectively as we move forward?
Baby, you're gonna make me tear this metaphor up. But you know what? When you think about it, it's like a team. Like, my kids about to be on a basketball team at 6. And you know what? You got positions. You got positions. You got to understand, what position do you play? And it's based on your strength many times. Are you good at hitting? Are you good at catching? Are you good at running? What is your strength? Are you the coach? What are you? And so we need to identify our positions. We need to get in position. And you know what? We got to understand the game. How, 3 strikes, you're out. Where do you have to move? How do you have to position? What position on the field for this? And I think we have to organize ourselves. We are people of organization. And so often, I think a lot of things have happened because we have not organized ourselves. We've gotten very comfortable not organizing ourselves. But now is the time to say, these are the roles that we have to play, and we are in position. This is what time the game starts. So show up. This is the uniform you need to wear. This is how you need to hydrate and get your body right. These are all the metaphors for making sure that we are fully equipped. Yeah, we lost a game. We did, but we're still in the series. We still have an opportunity to come back. And as long as you realize that, you look at players, they don't give up because they lost a game. They still a player. I'm still an athlete. I still got my uniform. You come back in. You get yourself together, re-strategize. What's our next play? How we moving? That's how we do it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think too, as we do this, as we play the game, I think sometimes we have to recognize that there's some Black people, even though they look like Black people, they're not on our team.
Mm,
And there are some Black people who feel like some closeness to white supremacy, they will take that over all others. I'm thinking about Tim
Mm,
Scott, Byron Donalds, and all these other people who just feel that if I could just, talk the talk or be close or whatever, we
mm,
have to learn how to spot those people. We have to learn how to spot those people and no, they're not on our team. They're not on our team. The other thing is part of playing the game is when you're in a working environment, you on some level are wearing a mask. You're wearing a mask as you go to your job and all that kind of stuff.
right.
We have to recognize that is a mask. That is not who we are. For some of us, the mask becomes fixed on our face and we can't take it off. And then we become the mask. So then we become a shell of a person. So the part of the game is knowing that you are playing a game, but
Mhm.
be true to yourself and be true to our communities. And I saw this comment about, yes, there is something called psychological warfare. And that's when people get in your head and they can manipulate you in certain ways. So when we think about enslavement, it's not only physical enslavement, but there's mental enslavement. So the mental enslavement that we are still dealing with as a people is the belief. It's a lot of different things. One is the whole divide and conquer. The other is I get mine, you get yours.
Yeah.
The other is I can't trust other Black people, or I can't trust other Black women, or I see another Black person as a source of competition for me. And so I need to get rid of that person. Whatever I can do to get rid of that person. And so that's that psychological warfare. They have control over your brain. So if they have control over your brain, they've won the game. They have won the game. And so
Yeah.
the psychological warfare is something that Dr. Joy DeGruy talks about in post-traumatic slave syndrome, which I think all of us should read. Every
Absolutely.
Black person should read that book
Yes.
because it talks about how the ramifications of slavery, we are still seeing it to this day. Even
Yes.
though this election thing and you hearing some of the crazy stuff some other Black people are saying, at your job, you might be experiencing that as well. So that's what psychological warfare is. They're able to get in our head, and then we start fighting against our own best interests. And that might look like not supporting another Black woman in the workplace. We talked about looking out for each other, but
Absolutely.
there might be other Black women in the workplace who are coming for you as a workplace bully or not supportive of you or betray you in some ways.
Mhm.
So we have to say, you know what? These Black people are cool, right? They understand the game, they understand the mission, but there's some Black people. It's like Harriet had to lead somebody. She had to lead some people because
Yeah.
they weren't ready for liberation. They want to go back to the plantation. Okay, so there's going to be a segment who want to stay on a plantation, but we do not. There's a large number of us who do not want to stay on the plantation because, as you said, Dr. Monica, we don't own the plantation.
We don't. We
Own
don't.
it.
And you know what? And we have to be okay letting them stay there. That is so hard because I know we don't want to leave people behind, but at the same time, when it comes back to liberation and wellness, everyone is not going to be on the same page.
No.
Another point that I wanted to say, when you talk about the psychological warfare, it's also this issue of seeing ourselves as underdogs. That's part of that post-traumatic slave syndrome too, where it's just like we were always labeled inferior. And
Mm-hmm.
what does it mean? It means that you don't have a right to speak up, or you don't have a right to demand. You don't have a right to sometimes um, lead and say this how I think is going to be the dominant way of thinking. Not
Mm-hmm.
because I think that other people are less than, but it's to say, you know what, I have a mind. You know, I have free will. I have the ability to put thoughts together and move forward as I need to, and I don't need the permission of other people. And we've said this to do that, and so that also takes practice. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
think about the books that talk about raising kids, particularly um, like positive Black kids or Black kids that are very confident. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that comes with repetition.
Mm-hmm.
It comes with positive reinforcement. It comes with all these aspects to say you are intelligent, you are worthy, you are enough. You are more than enough. You are
More than that.
accomplished. You
Mhm.
are, we think about how we speak to kids. We got to speak to ourselves that way too. Because what happens is that in society, we get knocked down so much that
Mm.
no matter how much that was said to us as kids or not said or whatever, we're knocked down a little bit. That one day
Yeah.
we go to work and somebody's like, you're not worthy, you didn't get the promotion, you get knocked down.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't belong here, knocked down. But
Yeah.
how are we building ourselves up? That's one thing that's really important too. During
Mhm.
this season of grief, yes, we are processing grief, but you
Mhm.
know what? We need to also build ourselves up.
Yep.
If nobody else builds you up, you look in that mirror and you talk to yourself. You say,
Yep.
I am worthy. And if there's someone on here who wants to be president of the United States, wants to be CEO, wants to be whatever they want to be, guess what? You could be that too. Just because someone else has never done it. Remember, I talked about the blueprint. That doesn't
Mhm.
mean that you can't do it.
Right.
But
Right.
we have to say it to ourselves.
Right. The importance of saying that to ourselves and to be in community of people who uplift us. And I would even say during this time, it's so important not only for us to check in with ourselves and have boundaries about things that are harming us. So if we know that watching the news causes us more anxiety, maybe don't watch the news right now. So being intentional about that, but also being responsible and checking in with other people around us. I've called a number of Black women to check in with how they doing. They're like, girl, I'm not doing well. We need to also uplift each other. And then what I think is important too is we need to particularly teach kids, but also for ourselves. When we start seeking external validation from people who don't want to see our worth, they see our worth, but they don't want to let us know our worth.
Yeah.
When we are constantly seeking validation from them, that's dangerous. So we've given our power away. So we have to learn as a people to stop seeking validation for people who don't want to validate us and who are trying to use and steal things from us for their benefit. That's number one. Number two, I think is important as we talk about psychological warfare. Number one, knowing our true history, knowing about white supremacist ways of behavior and thinking, and how that impacts and manifests and how we see ourselves and how we see each other as Black people. Because what we might do is have a certain standard that we're trying to aspire to based upon what? Not even who we are, it's some other thing. But to counter that, it's to know our history, but also psychological armoring. So psychological armoring is what can we do as Black people? It's almost like a hazmat suit. Like, you go into like a chemical. How do we have that psychological armoring of ourselves as we go into these toxic, hostile work environments, as we are in this toxic, hostile society? How do we preserve our sanity? And how do we resist those white supremacist ways of thinking that internalize racism that divides and conquers? How do we do that? So the psychological armoring, I want us to talk a little bit about that. What do you think will be helpful for us as we create our own psychological armoring?
Yeah. I have thoughts about that too.
Yes,
An
please.
example,
Okay.
an example came up for me because I work with a small group of Black women in my role as a professor, and I also was working on another project with some other women, and it was just a research cluster of like, how do we work together as Black women? What does it look like for us to protect ourselves in these spaces? And one of the ideas that we had was to create our own guiding norms and principles. And for my group, I don't have the list in front of me, but I'll give you examples. As a leader, I said, we're going to give ourselves grace. Like, yes, we are in a higher ed organization, but we're going to do that. Another thing is that sometimes one of us is going to be weak, but it's on us to make sure that we are holding the arms of the person who's weak until they are strong again. Another thing is that we're allowed to fail. We do not have to be perfect all the time. We do not have to be strong all the time. We do not have to be right all the time. Another is that we are presumed competent. We don't come in there doubting and saying, what is it? You got to show me everything to show that you know your thing. No, you know what? If you come in with that degree, you are credentialed. And you know what? And if you don't show up that day, I'm not penalizing you for it, because there's something else that you had to prioritize. And I know that because I trust you as part of this group, you're going to bring what you need when you need to bring. And I'm just giving you some examples because I think we often assume that we know how to work and we know how to kind of uplift each other and ourselves. But sometimes we have to make that stuff formal, because when you talk about, white supremacy, we know those norms.
Yeah.
Be really productive, work hard, be a pack mule, be twice as good. Like, why is it we don't even have to write that stuff down? Put on your mask, show up early, do this, do that. Man, that stuff is in us so much.
Yeah.
We can recite it.
Yeah.
But we have not created our own norms of how we're going to move, how we're going to be gentle. And we have bits and pieces of like joy. We talk about rest. But anytime we are in a new space with new people, we need to make sure we're on the same page. And so an example would be, how are we giving ourselves grace? If we had a community, what does grace look like? Is it giving someone space? And you know what? This is the biggest thing I tell people in consulting. So often everyone says they want to support someone, but it's not about how you want to support them. It is what they need in that moment based on what you can offer them. And that's what's up too. We have got to learn how to meet people where they are with what they need in that moment. And we have to be not just alert, but intuitive enough to realize when we don't have what those people need. If someone needs a therapist and you're not a therapist, guess what? Baby, I can't help you right now, but I will guide you to someone who can. So it's moving differently. Do you know what I mean? It's realizing that we have needs, admitting when we have needs, knowing that we don't have to be strong enough to answer all the needs by ourselves, but understanding that as a community, we're all going to get to the promised land together.
Right. Yeah. And when you said strong, it made me think about, the image of the strong Black woman. So on some level that has served our benefit, but on some level that has harmed us a lot. And so when we are in, let's say, work environments, understanding how that stereotype is used to exploit our labor and let us not lean into that, like, oh, they see me as a strong Black woman. And again, that's when we start fusing our identity based upon our work, but understanding that, again, as Stephanie Perry says, that's fruit of the slavery tree. So in what ways do we see ourselves as a reflection of white supremacy? How do we interrogate that for ourselves? And you brought up another issue that made me think about something else: allyship. So as we're talking about what we need to do as Black people and ways we need to protect our peace and our safety, what does that mean in terms of allyship too?
Right. Hold on just 1 second. Something's going on in the chat.
Oh, okay.
So there's someone here who says, I'm the one who said I voted for Trump for social safety. So the person's here. My experience was not validated, and y'all are supposed to be therapists. Well, I'm not a therapist, but okay. I felt more attacked while Kamala was running for president. I'm relieved Trump won. So the person you mentioned earlier is here, and someone said troll alert. So Dr. Sanity, I want to alert you.
Okay, yeah, thank you, because I didn't see it. Okay, let me read it again. Okay. Okay, so what I was saying was, in this space, in this community on my channel, this is a space of support for other Black women, okay? So no matter what your political viewpoint is, I may disagree with it, but the point is, if you come and talk about things in such a way that you are critical of the pain that other Black women may be experiencing, and for you to say something like, I don't see why you guys would do that. Like, that's shaming. That's shaming. And so my perspective is, and in holding space for other Black women, that we can have differences of opinion. I'm glad you're here, that we can have differences of opinion. But when we say things in such a way that we're not honoring each other and we're saying things in a critical way, that is concerning. That is concerning. Okay. So the validation that you're talking about, I hear you and I respect your opinion. And I'm also saying that my hope is, as you are in this space, that you can also respect that some of us don't have the same perspective as you. And even if you do feel relieved about what the outcome is, my hope is that you can also hold space that not everybody thinks like you, and they may have a different reaction. So it's important for us as Black women to be able to hear and respect that everybody has a right to their own thoughts and their own feelings. As a therapist, that is what I strive to do. And so that's why I have this space for community healing. And so when people feel judged or they feel attacked or they feel things like that, they feel that this is not a safe space. And so I want this to be a safe space. And that's why I say all the time that in this space, that we show one another respect and we can disagree, but be mindful of how you express that disagreement. Okay. Okay, so you've been praying for protection, respect. Okay, good. I appreciate that you've been looking for that, the protection, respect, and security of Black women. I just want us, I'm just saying, I just want us, not just you included, I want us to be very mindful of the language that we use when we communicate to one another, because sometimes that language can be expressed in a very judgmental way. And because it might be expressed in a judgmental way, people may not feel safe around you, and people may feel that they don't feel honored by you, just in terms of when we say things in a certain way. Okay. So that is what I was referring to. But I would love to hear any other perspectives, because what I heard you say also, I felt more attacked when Kamala was running for president. Are you talking about you felt more attacked by other Black women, or you felt more attacked by other Black people? Or can you elaborate on that, please? I would love to hear your perspective on that.
And while she's doing that, I want to say something too, to kind of reiterate some things you're saying. If you look at the data, I think over 90%, and I don't really have the numbers, I mean the percentage, but over 90% of people, of Black women, voted for Kamala. And if you're looking at the resources that are available, because that is such a large number, you're providing this explicit space where we're talking about that. Like, that is your target audience. That is your market. That is the niche. That is the space that we need, because there are not enough people who are talking about what the consequences of this means for us. And so I think that's another perspective when you kind of think, where are we getting what we need to be supportive? And if someone is coming in here, there's also an expectation for it to be a safe space, because people don't feel safe in the society where the majority of people are saying that our thoughts are not valid. So I just want to put that out there too, where sometimes it's not that we're trying to group think or kind of come and be complainers together. We are looking for support and healing in a way that this country has not supported and healed us, and has actually degraded us and made us feel that we don't belong.
And silenced us.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if we dare to speak up, then we get criticized, or there's a pushback or something. And I will not have my YouTube channel a space, which I've tried again to try to make this a safe space for Black women. I will not allow this space for people to come in and attack us for expressing how we think or feel. I'm not going to tolerate that. And so when you say something that gives us the message that we don't have a right to express that we're being harmed. When we think about it as Black women, we're rarely given an opportunity. Nobody really cares if we get hurt. Nobody cares, right? They feel like they can do anything they want to us. So if we have a space and we're talking about that, and somebody is saying, basically, it kind of conveys like, get over it, like whatever. I'm glad he won, and that kind of adds insult to injury. So you're coming to this space, and the majority of Black women here are talking about how they're hurting because of what happened. It's important for you to really assess as you're coming into the space, the words that you're using, is that supportive or is that inflame it more?
But
right?
I think that what we're going to need to do is try to find ways, and I don't have the solution for this, so maybe you and others can say this, but I feel that we have never been allowed in our workplace to say that we need to pause or that we are not going to show up how people expect us to show up. You know, people think that's insubordinate or something is wrong with us. And I just like, that is the thing that I want us to do. How do we translate rest into our workplaces where we're like, you know what? It's not that I'm lazy because I'm not engaging with you today. It's just that today I have my boundaries and this is how I choose to show up. You know, I don't know if I'm asking for something magical, something that can't happen, but, you know, we were talking about strategies earlier. And I feel like that's one of my strategies where if I need to turn my camera off, if it's a remote thing and everyone's like, there's an expectation of, you know, me showing up that way. If I don't need to, if I don't want to, then I'm not going to apologize for not showing up the way other people expect me to. So, you know, how do we even get to that space now where it's not just, you know, a Thursday night session with us, but when we go to work tomorrow, it's like, you know what? I need an extra hour to just decompress. I need to not show up to that meeting because I'm taking time for myself. And I'm saying not just do it tomorrow, but for the next 4 years, I want to see us snatch back our time. I want us to snatch back our peace in these workplaces that have always, you know, torn us up. Or whatever, wherever that may be. Maybe it's with our family, maybe it's other things, but we as Black women have to aggressively take back that time, take back that peace, take back that joy, take back all that stuff, because believe me, this country is going to try to dump darkness and pain on us. And we need to deflect it, just like a tennis racket. Nope. I'm not taking it. Get that S out of my face. Today.
I think part of it too, Dr. Monica, is the importance of us calling each other in, right? So again, I'm glad you showed up so that I can try to call you in, because my hope is that as you have come into this space and I have shared about not allowing space for us as Black women to talk about our experiences, my hope is that when you have more one-to-one contact with a Black woman and she's expressing that she's hurting because and she may have a different political view than you, that you don't kind of go in and keep talking about, well, why you think that this is best and this is what you did, that you're able to hold space for her, even if you disagree with her political background. Because again, this is what we're talking about. The steps forward is that as Black people, we have to learn that even if we disagree about things, we have to still hold space for one another and respect one another. Shooting each other down and say, oh, you shouldn't feel that way or whatever. That's how we've been treated all along. And so we have to, you talk about reinventing, we have to reinvent the way or rechannel the way that we've been treated. We can create a different way of being so we're not falling to these white supremacist ways of being. When we shut down one another, we don't honor each other, we don't honor each other's opinions or how we feel, that is falling into white supremacist behaviors. So I wanted to read, okay, I'm sorry. Oh, I got a sticker. Wow, okay, thank you.
I don't even know what that means. What does that even mean?
So somebody donated to the channel.
Oh,
which I
congratulations.
thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Okay, so I want to read some more comments. Okay. So to get where you're going, everyone can come along. Yes, right. Some people can't come. They put on a reading list about post-traumatic slave syndrome. That's what happened to me. A toxic work environment caused me to leave my accounting profession. They see our worth and they're intimidated by it. I never feel like an underdog. I always know we come from the greatest ancestors of Africans who made the entire human race, and the racist whiteness of America knows that America has the sin of death. Absolutely. Okay, so we read that. Grace to me is love and understanding, healing each other as the Black sisterhood that used to be respectful, read the room. So I think Latrice is talking about if you're coming to the space and we as Black women are expressing how we're feeling, it is harmful and hurtful to kind of throw it back in our face again about how you're happy about the outcome, right? Let's see. Oh, okay. So this woman says she was socially attacked by white women in the workplace and public. Okay. So because you experienced this from white women, I think you were saying, or other white people, I think you were saying that because that happened, you were trying to mitigate, I guess, further harm and concerned that Black women will be more of a target if Kamala won. So I hear you. I just disagree with you, but that's your perspective. If the majority of people say there's a problem, the thing you should do is acknowledge it with kindness and move on. Self-awareness goes a long way. Agreed. This election was an eye-opener for me. We have to learn how to trust one another to move forward as a community. This is what I'm talking about. Let's just not engage. That's what they want. I literally felt, oh my gosh. Okay. I'm not going to keep reading this because this, I don't know if you are taking in what we're saying right now because you are continuing to be provocative in some ways. And I don't know if you have the self-awareness to say, wait a minute, maybe I need to stop because this is not a space where the majority of people here subscribe to a similar way of thinking. And we're telling you about our healing and trying to heal, but you're continuing to say things that are inflammatory. So this is like in action, what I'm talking about right here. This is in action, it's playing out. So as Black people, it's hard for us to come together when we don't have the self-awareness to look at ourselves and number one, interrogate, why do I feel the need to keep pressing an issue that is not being received well? And what is going on with me that I can't hold space to hear the experiences of my sisters and have compassion for them? Okay. So I'm not going to read your comments. Okay. But it is concerning. Okay. I turned off the news and got quiet and meditated. Then I was able to relax and clear my mind for a rest. I asked myself a question: where do I go from here? Then ideas started to flow. Yeah, and this is exactly how this live came today. I was thinking about some things. I was reading the comments to the other video, and I said, you know what? We need to talk about it. Okay. So that was, I'm rechanneling the frustration that I'm experiencing. I'm rechanneling it as a way to have open dialogue. Please let's not engage, block this troll. This is a slithering invasion. Ooh, okay. It was a slap us in our face as Black women while others benefit from our contributions and sacrifices from our ancestors. Okay, thank you. Okay, Kim Gray, super sticker. Thank you so much, Kim. That was so kind. Um, okay, I'm not going to respond to your comments because I see that you keep responding.
But I think the person is leaving, so
Okay,
we're gonna
okay.
move on with
I'm
that.
new to this channel, Dr. K. I just subscribed to this amazing, uplifting channel. Thank you. My tears keep falling on its own. Spiritual, I can feel and see what's coming to America. Yeah, we need to armor up. So that's the psychological healing, but also get the support that we need. So my channel might be an option. Therapy might be an option. There are different things that are resources for us as a Black community, but we have to recognize what we need and to follow up on that. But What's important is for us to have compassion for ourselves and one another. Thank you, ladies. You have helped me today tremendously. Your sincerity is real. Thank you. Consider the perspective that some do not feel relieved due to others being emboldened by the outcome. Certain behaviors and microaggressions may become overt and amplified. True, true. He demonized the hard outcomes of soft racism. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, any last words, Dr. Monica, as we start winding down for today?
You know what? I think that this has been, ironically, a really good exercise in how we're going to have to navigate life. Everywhere we go, we're going to find people who are going to represent something, like they're feeling some type of emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And how we cannot control other people, but we can control ourselves. And
Boom.
so what does this look like for us? How do
Yeah.
we keep our peace in the moment where we are? I just feel like that is just a common therapy piece, and
Mm-hmm.
your reality is your reality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's almost like, I'm gonna go back to grief, and how last night I talked about I'm in a grief recovery program because I lost both my parents,
Mm-hmm.
and I had just issues with work, and I just realized I'd had so much stuff even before the election. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
started this process months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And in that training that I've done, it starts off just saying that your loss is your loss. And so often we think that death is loss,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the only type of loss you can have. But this is a loss for many people.
Yeah.
This
Tremendous.
is like death. This is grief.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the rules for you to recover from
Mm-hmm.
grief
Mm-hmm.
is to acknowledge that the grief is real.
True.
I think that's the heart of what's going on here. Like, when we're seeing people who said that they're sad, guess
Mm-hmm.
what? You lean into that, because
Mm-hmm.
the way that you're going to move forward is to
Mm-hmm.
acknowledge that that sadness is real, and that this is how this has impacted you. This is the consequence of the sadness, that you could not go to work, that you cried, that you're nervous, that you're scared. You have to lay all that stuff out there, because
Mm-hmm.
only then can you start to heal.
Yeah.
And I think, man, I wish that I just had a quick way for this to heal. But as someone who, like, I lost my dad in 2017, I lost
Mm-hmm.
my mom in 2022. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
telling you, death, I know, is very different than what has happened. I'm not trying to put them in the same space, death and the election.
Mm-hmm.
Man, you said it last night. This is not linear. This
No.
does not have a time stamp on it. You don't know if in a month is going to be worse or it's
Mm-hmm.
going to be better. And I'm not trying to depress anyone.
No, it's real talk. Real talk.
I'm here to validate
Mm-hmm.
that whatever you're feeling is very real to
Yeah.
you. And you
Yeah.
don't have to explain to anyone else if
Mm-hmm.
you have to go and eat a tub of ice cream tonight, because that's just how you have to deal with it. You know what I mean? I'm not saying do that every night, but whatever you're leaning toward, we want to express that, because you don't want it to become so toxic that you feel
Yeah.
that you can't move on. Because I think it's when you repress and
Mm-hmm.
suppress,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, oh, I'm fine, oh my gosh. And all of a sudden you're like, I feel like I can't make it another day. We don't want you to get to that place. We need spaces like this so you
Yeah.
can make it another day and say, you know what? Someone has validated
Yes.
that the harshness that I feel is not just me. And
Mm-hmm.
so I know it's going to get better tomorrow. And if
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't get better tomorrow, I can go to a therapist, or I know I have Dr. Kamani, or I have something, or I can read something, or I can see something, or I can talk it out, and it's going to get better for me. I don't want anyone to leave this space thinking that they are hopeless
Mm-hmm.
and that the world is going to end, and that there is no hope. No, baby, you know what? We're going to fight. We're going to
Yes.
fight like hell. We're
Yes.
going to do what we need to do. We're going to have our rights. And I told you, we get into the promised land together. It's about building community and being strong and knowing that you are not yourself. You're not alone. And if
Yeah.
you are so weak, baby, we got you. We've
Yeah.
got you today. We've got you next month. We got you a year from now. We've got you 2 years from now. We have you. You are
Yeah.
never alone in this. You got sisters,
Yes.
and baby, they're going to have to take all of us out, because we're not going to let you go out there by yourself. That's
True.
the mentality we need to have. People need to be very afraid.
True. True. Because now we're like, oh, what? Okay. That's what we're working with. So now we know. Point taken. Point taken, right? And the other thing I want to say is when we talk about the grief of what has happened with this election situation,
Yeah.
we talked about the grieving could be on so many different levels. The grieving of you see this brilliant Black woman
Mm.
out here doing her thing, and you see every way that she stepped, disrespected, devalued, all these different things. So that the grief of seeing that's traumatizing to see that, but it hits us so deeply because so many of us have had this experience in the workplace and society. And so it's yet another reminder how
Yeah.
so many people see other Black women. So you may be wondering, why am I feeling this way? It's just an election. No, sis. You were able to identify some of yourself in Vice President Kamala Harris. No matter what her policies were, no matter what, you still identify. And that's why it may hurt you so deeply. The other thing I want to say is with this exchange that happened today, that was an example of, well, first I want to say, I appreciate that because we were able to see in real time what that meant, that not everybody's coming with us. Not everybody's on the same team, even if they present themselves as Black. Okay. The other thing I want to say is that I recognize that I was trying to clarify things with this person, but my sister was writing in the chat, girl, leave that alone. Right? Leave her alone. Other people were saying, leave her alone. Leave that person alone. Okay. We have to know sometimes when we need to walk away from something. We have to learn that sometimes we can express things to people, we can clarify, but if they keep at it, we got to leave them alone. We got to leave them alone. And hopefully they'll get it. But at some point we have to recognize when to leave them alone. The other thing I want to say is I want to say that I want this space to be a zone that is free of people coming in here and trying to police Black bodies. Okay. And even if somebody presents as Black, I don't want anybody feeling like they cannot speak their truth because they have a difference of opinion. Okay. So I want us to, even we had that exchange, all that kind of stuff. We had that exchange, but for us to know that this will continue to be a space for us for our own healing. Okay. So I just want to put that out there. But I want to go back to something. Oh my God, Dr. Monica, I'm sorry. I want to go back to the question I asked you before about allyship. Okay. Because we have to be mindful of what we need to do in our community. But also, as we come to this community, we have to be mindful of allies and allyship. And when we think about the step forward, we saw the election results in terms of who voted for who and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Can you talk about allyship, and can you talk about white women and their voting patterns for this person and what needs to happen?
Yeah, you know what? Allyship. I always say this. We've said this a lot. If I don't say you're my ally, you're not. Stop trying to put yourself out there, trying to get a title that you didn't earn. And I think that's the same too. And I went back to what I said about, like, how do we need space? How do we need to be uplifted right now? That's how you know who your ally is. If they're up here trying to have their own personal agenda and they're centering themselves and not us, that is not an ally at all.
Yes.
An ally will hear our pain and will say, this is what we need to move forward. Short of changing the outcome of the election, like, how far are you willing to go? It's about systemic change.
Yes.
Allyship is, we're going to make sure this never happens to Black women again. We're going to make sure that we are not treated poorly and spoken about like trash. That's what allyship is. You're going to have to put some skin in the game.
Yes.
And you know what? That's what I got. We gotta raise the bar. We've been letting everybody get by, like, oh, you just showed up and look cute. Baby, that's not allyship. I'm gonna need you to get a paper cut or something.
of
Bring,
hypocrite.
bring,
Yeah,
bring a weapon to the fight. I don't know
girl,
what you're gonna
something,
do, but you can't
something.
just show up and be cute.
Something.
What we doing?
Yes, girl, they did that. I was hearing this message, and I kind of felt like it was an okie doke. It was like people kept saying, "Black women are going to save this election. Black women are going to save this election." So it became almost like this expectation more of our labor. But what we're saying is, no, it's not just us that can save an election.
Yeah,
Okay. So what would
absolutely.
you say about the white women? About the white women who have voted for this man in two different elections?
It
Majority.
goes back when you see when people show you who they are, believe them. And I think so often it's once again we talk about sisterhood. I think we maybe mentioned this because both of us went to Spelman, and when you think about sisterhood, it really is that space where it's like I've got you. And I think so often we allow people to be our sisters and they're not. We're
Mhm.
putting a title on a sister, and they're not even a good cousin. They're not even a good friend. So stop, just because somebody looks like they may be your sister, stop giving them a
Or they
title.
say it, or they say
I
it.
feel like that's what it is. Where
Mhm.
we so often we need to be literal.
Yeah, yeah,
Believe what you see. Believe
yes,
what people tell you. Believe
yes,
how people show up. Stop trying
yes,
to give benefit of the doubt when people don't deserve that. I'm not
yes,
saying be cynical. I'm saying be
yes,
wise. This
yes,
is another level. Wisdom is
yes,
where we have to move right now,
yes.
knowing which direction should we go? When should we be silent? Someone said that earlier. When should we, move left? Y'all,
Mhm,
we have to be really, really on top of stuff and have discernment
mhm.
unlike we have ever had.
True that. And we need to hold people accountable and say what we hold them accountable for,
Come
right?
on, come
So
on.
with
Yes,
these white women who voted for this dude, there needs to be other white women who hold these white women accountable, not us as black women.
that's another thing.
These
Yeah,
other white women need to hold these white women accountable
yes,
about this, because guess what? This will keep happening. This will keep
absolutely.
happening. So when we think about allyship, and I love what you said, Dr. Monica, if I don't call you my ally, you're not my ally. You're not a self-appointed ally.
Yeah,
But those of you who do call you our allies, we have to hold them accountable for them holding each other accountable, because we
absolutely.
can't do that. Yeah.
It's like show me the results. I want all of it. Lay it
Where are
out.
your
Like
receipts? Where
make
are
it
your receipts?
clear.
Yes.
Every time. And you know what? Someone said something in the quote in the chat that I wanted
Mhm,
to shift to, and I
mhm,
thought it
mhm,
was really good.
mhm,
And someone said Kamala is fine.
mhm,
And someone was like, think about Kamala, she's going through, and then
mhm.
somebody says, she's fine, don't worry about her. But I think I often use a term up and out. Many people think because someone is on the up that they can't be out sometimes, or that they don't experience grief. And I think we need to shift how we think about our sisters.
Yeah,
And yes, she looks like she's very privileged and has a lot of stuff, but that stuff was harmful. When you think about this person beating you, then she's still a human, and we have to empathize with her, and we do want to lift her up as
absolutely.
well. So even if it's just, how whatever your faith may be, is it a quick prayer? Is it
Yeah,
something that just acknowledges that we all as Black people, from the top to wherever we are, need to be healed and restored?
yeah. I want to say that that comment is such an example of how we mask. She has to present this way. And as Black women, we always have to wear the mask. So of course she's going to look good. Of course we have always done that. So don't use that as a barometer. Oh, she's okay.
Yeah.
We do that. You could
Yeah.
be dying inside and you got the mask on every day at your job. So let's not do that. And
Yeah.
I want to say to Vice President Kamala Harris how much we appreciate you for
Yeah.
fighting the good fight and experiencing such hostility and disrespect, but you always rose above it, and you
Absolutely.
kept it cool, and you were outstanding.
Yeah.
outstanding in what you did. Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to
And
do finish. Yes, go on,
and
go
you
on,
know
go
what?
on.
Because that reminds me really quickly, most people know about Stacey Abrams too. And
Yes.
I was in a session where I heard her speaking. And the reason that I know this is true is because I believe someone maybe asked her a question, because she lost the governorship twice.
Hmm.
And I think she may have said something to the effect of that she needed to heal,
Yeah.
that it hurt.
Yeah.
You think about it, you put your effort into something. I mean, physically, think about that. You
Yeah.
are putting wear and tear on your body, your mind, your soul. And it doesn't matter how much you work out, how well you eat, you are putting like an extreme unnatural amount of pressure on the human body and
Yeah.
soul and spirit for that amount of time. We think about athletes, but think about the media, think about the schedules, think about all of that. And weathering, that is a form of weathering. I don't care what anyone
Definitely
says.
is. Yeah.
These,
That chronic
these
stress.
women who are in political circles, who are scrutinized as Black women so publicly, they have weathered their bodies. We don't know the ultimate impact of it, but
Yeah.
it is not easy to do that. And for
No.
anyone who's here, if you're the first, if you're the only, whatever your position, however you move, I mean,
Mhm.
it's just natural, and that's why we need spaces to restore. And
Yeah.
I think that we need to understand those nuances about ourselves as Black women.
I,
This is our next level too, where
mhm.
it's like, what does it mean to be a sister, and how are we really embodying the elements of sisterhood at
Mm,
all levels, in
mm,
all ways?
mhm.
And what does healing and restoration look like in those
True.
spaces?
True. And I think healing and restoration looks like knowing what weathering is and the impact that can have on our bodies and our sisters' bodies. So, for those of you who are not familiar with weathering, weathering is when you're under chronic stress, it can cause your organs to age at a faster rate. And so, when we're in chronically stressful situations, such as a toxic job or election situation,
Yeah.
that causes a lot of stress, and we might not be able to see the impact on our organs, but it's
Yes,
definitely impacting us. So yes, I would absolutely say that this has taken a toll on her, and I want us to all uplift her. Okay.
absolutely. And
Um,
you know what? I want to
yeah.
also use this phrase. I have a book behind me. It's
Mhm,
over here, but I don't have it like physically in my hand. But
mhm,
I'm gonna tell a little story that I want to leave with people.
mhm,
And I had a really toxic job situation, and I was a leader, and there was a lot of hell that went on. And I was not reappointed to that position. So it felt like a loss because
mhm,
I'd invested so much for 4.5 years and I didn't really have anything to show for it.
mhm,
And I remembered crying in that
mhm.
moment because it is really hard when you're just like, man, I invested in this, and what's the outcome? Because I don't care what anyone says, in the moment you can't see the future.
Right.
It does. How you feel, what you feel, and you feel defeated and sad and upset.
Yeah.
It's just the
Yeah.
way it is.
Yeah.
And I told people, and this is why I named my book this. I said, you know what? Don't cry for me because I'm never defeated.
Mm.
And at that moment, I felt defeated.
Wow.
And by faith, I said, don't cry for me. As tears were rolling down my eyes, don't
Wow.
cry for me because I'm never defeated. 4 years later, I'm sitting here with you. And I
Wow.
wrote that book. And it hurt to write that book. It hurt to go through those things. But
Yeah.
you know what? I sit here and I'm like, you know what? I'm never defeated. And I
Yeah.
think that's just something that we as Black women know. Like, by faith, we are never defeated. It does not matter what it looked like. It does not matter what this election looks like. We are never defeated.
No.
Never,
No.
never. And
No.
when you say that to yourself every day through tears, through hurt, through all the things that come, I
Mhm.
promise you one day you're going to get on that other side and you're like, you know what? It was true. I didn't lie to
Yeah.
myself. I thought I lied to myself, but I didn't lie
Yeah.
to myself. And I feel like that is the strength of us as Black women, where we,
Yeah.
like, even the manifestation of what we're doing tonight, we are hurting.
Mhm.
I feel teary just saying it. We are hurting.
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
don't know what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
And you just like, God, protect us.
Yeah.
Be
Yeah.
there for us. Protect my mom. If you have a mom, if you have a child, God
Mm.
protect our people. because we
Mhm.
have never been in this space before. And I know they're coming for us, but you know what? We really are never defeated.
We're not. And our ancestors
Yeah,
showed us that. Think
absolutely.
about, oh my God, that they were able to persevere with all that they went through. We will never be defeated. We will
Never.
never be defeated. And you know what else, Dr. Monica, as you were talking, I was thinking about as Black women, how many times we have been beat down in our
Mm,
lives by some situation. We've
right.
been beat down and we always get up. But I want us to think about, reflect on things that we've gone through in our lives and ways that maybe we persevered at a higher level after it's happened. So you, higher level, you went through that horrible situation, higher level. I went through that horrible situation, my toxic job,
Yes.
higher level. So
Yes.
my hope is
Yes.
that as Black women,
Mm,
that this has happened. It's been a setback, but we will rise up and we'll rise up higher
yeah.
because we're experiencing post-traumatic growth. And I hope that we're
Yes.
able to see our ancestors and see what they have done and that they're still with us. And I want to show this card that I saw and I bought it. And it says, the ancestors are moving mountains to see you rise. And they
Mm,
are. They're moving mountains for
come
us.
on.
And we have to remember that. And
Yeah.
even though in that moment when you felt broke down, when that happened to you at that job, even though I felt broke down over 2 years ago, when
Come
I
on.
started this YouTube channel and I started talking about my own journey to toxic job, I couldn't see it, but
Right.
I knew that God had something bigger and better for me. I knew it. I said, God, I know that you do not want me at this place where I'm being beat down and defeated. No, this is not what God. So part of it is the knowing that God has something bigger and better for us individually and collectively, and moving forward.
Right.
Even when we want to sit back, even when we want to cry, take that moment to cry.
Absolutely.
Take that
Yes.
moment to
Yes.
rest. Take that moment. Take those moments. But
Yes.
know it's part of the process for you to keep moving forward. And the grief can come in waves, but
Hmm.
keep going. Keep
Yeah.
going. Keep moving forward. Okay. So I
Absolutely.
want to read some more of the chat. And then for real, we're gonna shut it down.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'm gonna be quiet. I'm muting myself.
No, girl,
Muting.
no, no. Stop. No. Okay. America faced fascism twice over two qualified women leaders. Yes. Yep, they sure did. No, this is not a repeat from yesterday. This is a part two to yesterday. Okay. So let's see. Let me see. Yes, this definitely woke me all the way up. Good. So I'm being marginalized. The people that voted for him and that didn't. It's like, America, I see you and my heart breaks. Cognitive dissonance is real. Thank you, beautiful Black Queen sisters, Dr. Ken, Dr. M. I'm grateful that I'm here to have a spiritual connection through our Black sisterhood. It's the greatest gift we have. My ears have been ringing. I love us. It's beautiful. Um, Kamala was an existential threat. That was why they increased the rhetoric. Yep, yep, and yep. Uh-huh. Everyone, please pray for Kamala. She's taking the hardest hit. Yes, we will pray for her. As a female combat vet, I'm disgusted. Yes, I sit with you in that disgust. But I want us to not stay in the disgust. Okay. So, what I'm hoping that I'm modeling for you, that Dr. Monica is modeling for you, how do we rechannel that disgust into action? Okay. Let's see. White women don't see us as sisters. Trust me, Kamala. Oh, well, we saw that. Okay. Okay. So she may have lost the election, but she's received plenty of exposure now in the history books. Let's see. Preach, preach, preach. Facts as the truth, girl. Yes, sir. Period. Facts. Um, White women are white first, so the allegiance to race over gender first. Okay. Yeah, she's hurting about Kamala. She's a leader, and her strength trickles down to the masses. One of my friends lost followers because she called her own out. Our beautiful sister, Vice President Kamala Harris, in 3 months, did an amazing campaign. Yes, she did. Who worked very hard, being outstanding. I'm sending my prayers to her and her entire family. I know she's hurting. Yes, we're sending her support. Absolutely. I look at them in the face. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and guidance. I played her speech yesterday out loud. Wow. Oh my God. Thank you, Kim. You are just rolling with it. Thank you so much for supporting this channel. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Good night, everyone. Let's see. Kamala ain't giving up, and neither are we. No, we're not. No, we're not. Trusting you'll keep rising. Yes. Jeremiah 29:11. It's okay to cry out loud so our ancestors can hear us. We are connected to the highest level of faith. We will all overcome this wickedness of mental illness and racist whiteness America. Yes, we will persevere. We will rise up. Okay. So, everyone, thank you so much for watching this conversation today. Please give this video a thumbs up so that YouTube will suggest this video to other Black women. It helps to feed the algorithm. Also, please check out all the resources that Dr. Monica has. Tell them what you got, girl, because you told them yesterday. Tell them what you got.
Absolutely. So I'm Dr. Monica Cox, Dr. Monica Cox at on all social media platforms. Go to my website, drmonicacox.com. Subscribe to get some really good resources and just encouragement. And I'm also author Monica Cox. So I have a lot of books. They're mostly on Amazon, but you can check them out at authormonicacox.com. Fiction and nonfiction. And the book I told you about, Over My Shoulder, Never Defeated.
Never defeated.
And I have a lot of other novels. So if you're looking for escapism, about professional women, romance, check out all of my books too. So thank you.
Yes. So again, I have all her information in the description section. So please check out Dr. Monica. I want to say thank you to Dr. Monica, my Spelman sister, for her indulging. Like I was like, girl, I called her this morning and we just made this happen. So I'm so thankful to Dr. Monica. And again, please share this video with at least 2 other Black women so that we are supporting healing amongst each other and that we hold space for ourselves and each other. So again, give this video a thumbs up, share this video with 2 other Black women, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys later. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, good to see y'all.